realizing how little trust I had in myself and how easy it was for other people to manipulate me and my vulnerabilities, like using my vulnerabilities and my wounds, my shadow parts against me. So I've been asking myself the question what it means to be wrong about something, or what it means to make a mistake in the context of just having gone through an experience of ego death. Yeah, so I guess the way that I started to think about it, or why I started to think about it, was originally sparked by me properly getting my heart broken and then continuing to sprinkle salt in the wound for about 2 years until I came to this realization that I cannot do this anymore. I feel like I had worked, like in that time, I had gone through so many experiences of crises and just things that fundamentally changed my way of being in the world. Something about Saturn return and transiting Pluto conjunct my natal sun. So the way that I experienced my Saturn return is as a bit of a slap in the face, to be honest. It was definitely not gentle parenting. It was more like tough love. Like, I went through some not just humbling but deeply painful and traumatizing experiences that ultimately made me have a really, really good look at myself and, like, specifically reevaluate or confront myself with the relationship to myself, like my own relationship to myself, how I was treating myself, how I was showing up in relationships. Spent a lot of time getting to know myself, and I had this very ugly wake-up call, realizing how little trust I had in myself and how easy it was for other people to manipulate me and my vulnerabilities, like using my vulnerabilities and my wounds, my shadow parts against me. Yeah, so that experience, like both the heartbreak and drawn out indulgence in limerence or self-abandonment and delusion, that, as well as this experience finding myself in a very sorry bad, unhealthy, toxic, abusive, whatever you want to call it, relationship. But yeah, I think all of that was really what the Saturn return experience being a slap in the face or a tough love kind of approach. That's what I mean by that. So like I had to really not just take stock of things, but I was also just kind of thrown into so many endings. Like I was in crisis, everything was kind of on fire, and yeah, there was so much pressure on all of my systems, like from all sides, that it really made transparent the parts that weren't working, and the relationships and other aspects of my life or ways of being I had to let go because I realized that they were not good for me, that they were holding me back. And the kind of, not conclusion, but finale, or what, like, I don't know, of all of that was, I think, what I have started identifying as ego death, realizing that I was still holding on to a story that I was telling myself, and that I was the one holding myself back because there was still this part of me that was scared to take my life into my own hands, like to really let go of the idea that someone else is gonna not save me, but that the answer is in other people, and that I was holding on to this relationship and my idea or hopes or delusions about this relationship because it was familiar, because that's what I knew. Like self-abandonment, this idea that like in order for me to be with other people, be seen, be in relationship, feel loved, that I could only achieve that by abandoning certain parts of myself. Because somewhere along the way, I learned that what I needed, what I wanted, who I was too much, inconvenient, unrealistic, bad, or not enough. And these wounds had become part of the way that I interacted with the world. These were beliefs or stories about myself that were so ingrained into my being that I didn't know that they were there. And like over the past, I don't know, especially like 7-8 years, I feel like I've been pulling back layers and layers and layers. And I think that, yeah, like at the end of last year, at the end of 2024, I arrived at this point of like, nope. I really don't want to do this. Like the way that I explained it to other people was by comparing it with being your own adult. Like this idea of kind of, it's in the middle of the night, you're watching a show, and then at some point there's this part of you that comes in like, you really should go to sleep. You really should go to sleep now because you have to get up in the morning and you're gonna feel like shit. And then this other part of you is like, oh, but I don't want to. Or this, yeah, just, or even you wake up in the middle of the night and you have to go pee, but you're kind of fighting yourself and like, I don't want to get up. I just want to go back to sleep. And then you're just drawing it out. You know that your body's gonna win. You know that when you have to pee, you're not gonna be able to properly fall back asleep or have a good sleep, but you're too comfortable in your bed. And it just takes a while of trying and failing until you eventually give up or give in or surrender to your body's knowing what you need to do, like to the thing that your body knows and your body is telling you, like having to get over yourself. And that, I feel like that experience happened to me just on a different level with that relationship and what that meant for how I felt about being alive and how much or how little agency I was attributing to myself, because I was holding on to this story where I was doing all kinds of brain gymnastics all of the time to defend to myself why what I'm doing is actually gonna make me happy, or that what I'm doing is the right thing, or kind of defending something that, like, just from the outside seems a bit silly, you know? Or I don't know, you know, again, I'm making fun of myself, but like I understand where I was and I have so much. It takes how long it takes, you know? Like in order to learn from an experience, you have to have the experience, and sometimes some lessons you have to keep learning over and over and over. And I don't think I'm done learning that lesson, just to be clear, but I feel like this very long process of transformation just came to, and I like, because I basically made it my job for the past 1.5 years to work on the relationship with myself and to get reacquainted with myself and to work on being okay in the world and regulating my nervous system, yada yada yada. And like that just really catapulted me into some sort of catharsis of just letting go of this. I think that most of the things humans do can be subsumed under telling each other and ourselves stories. And I think that applies to who we are, like the stories we tell ourselves, about who we are, about what we want and what will make us happy. And we build our lives and our identity around that. And I think somewhere in there is ego, this part of you that is created to defend those beliefs. I don't know, and maybe here it makes sense to read a definition of the ego just to make sure I'm not completely off. There's this one article that I found where they talk about the link between ego and nervous system as it relates to healing from trauma. So there's this one definition of the ego that I feel like resonates with what I'm trying to say. And it goes, the ego refers to the psychological construct that represents a person's sense of self, including their thoughts, beliefs, and identity. it plays a crucial role in how individuals perceive and interact with the world around them. And basically, ego death then, or I think in Jungian psychology was more called like psychic death or ego transformation, but basically ego death is this idea of a fundamental transformation of the psyche. So like this kind of dissolution and remodeling of the story that you're telling yourself, about who you are and what your place is in the world and how much agency you have. And I think what happened for me is just a breaking down, a crumbling of the structures that I was building my life on, how I moved through the world, how I interacted with people, how I treated myself. And a lot of that, or like I identified that what was holding me back was this fear of being myself, the story that I had internalized over the last 30 years of my existence. Yeah, the story that who I am, my wants, that it can't be, that I am wrong, that my wants, my needs, my desires, that's wrong, that it's too much or unrealistic. And I was letting that story, that fear of being too much or not enough or being myself, I was letting that run my life. And once I realized that, or like it's not like one point of realization, I feel like it's over the past couple of weeks, it's been this culmination. That's the word that I've been looking for. Yeah, it's just like led up to this culmination, or like, I don't know, all of these things adding up and compounding of realizations of, I don't want this. I don't want this story anymore. I'm done telling myself this story in which I have to be okay with feeling bad so much of the time and feeling like my dreams are, or my life is not in my own hands, and kind of waiting for life to happen, waiting for other people to realize that they do actually love me or whatever, you know? And this, the fact that I'm talking to you right now, the fact that I'm making these videos is a product or a part of that transformation, that expulsion of this story that I was telling myself, this fear that I was letting run my life. Like, I'm done trying to fit into someone else's story, or like, I don't know, I'm just done. I'm done letting my life be run by fear and protectiveness or scarcity mindset or shame even, instead of leading with love for myself and the world, and leading with curiosity and expansiveness and a trust in myself. And what kind of precedes that is the realization that trusting myself doesn't mean that I'm always going to be right, or that I'm always going to make the right choice or make the right decision, and that I'm never gonna have any regrets, or that I'm never gonna act out of alignment of my values or feel like I made a mistake or I was wrong. But trusting myself means that I trust that I always try my best, that every decision, every choice I make are the only ones that I could have made in that moment. Not in a deterministic kind of way, but in an accepting kind of way, and in a way that acknowledges, that trusting myself doesn't mean that I'm never wrong or never have any regrets or feel bad or, but trusting myself means that I will be able to get through that whatever decision I make, whatever choice I make, I will be able to handle it, that I'm not gonna die from feeling bad, that I'm not gonna die from feeling embarrassed or regret, and giving myself the opportunity by kind of showing up with compassion and with the belief that I did my best allows me to learn from these experiences instead of feeling ashamed or turning against myself or projecting it on other people. Not letting the hidden, crunchy, uncomfortable, tense, and icky parts of myself and stories about myself run the show from from behind the scenes or something like that. And I think that's what I would classify, or what I identified as an experience of ego death. And I've been kind of asking myself what it means to make a mistake or be wrong from that perspective, from that belief, from a place where I want to embrace conflict as opportunities for learning and for growth. It feels exciting. Suddenly conflict is not something I need to run away from anymore, but it's something I can welcome and let it be my teacher. And I'm not doing all of this alone. I'm so excited that there are other people out there who are making videos on their experiences and processes, and that I get to see myself in that and get to acquire more language for what I'm experiencing and just feel validated and kind of in community. So at this point, I just want to take the opportunity to shout out two YouTubers who make me feel this way, whose words resonate so much with me, Shavion and Ayanda. I'm gonna link them in the video description. And the other ways in which I'm supported in this process is through community. Shout out to Lena Norm's Patreon community / like the Discord server for Lena Norm's patrons. It's just been really cool. Like when I was a teenager, I spent so much time in forums and on Tumblr and like in these virtual community spaces. Yeah, it's just very exciting to have that again, to have these experiences of community again, where I get to experience myself in relationship with other people who I connect with over shared values or interests, and just being able to kind of shine a light on each other's, on these parts of each other and ourselves. That's one community that I'm really excited to be a part of. And I already mentioned embodied astrology in a different video. That's just such a special place, especially the weekly somatic practice meetings and workshops and the study groups / group therapy, which is amazing because I've been wanting to participate in group therapy for such a long time. And this is kind of where it connects, where this transformation process connects in with my thoughts and thought processes and readings and learnings about systems of oppressions and structures and especially colonialism. Yeah, I think my experience of the past year of really learning to regulate my nervous system and think of myself more as like a body or a body mind, or like just pay more attention to my body and integrating so many parts, leading me to embrace more of a spiritual practice with getting into tarot and astrology, and then finding this community that combines embodiment and astrology and so much more. All of that led me to finding my kind of research topic for my bachelor's thesis that I'm currently working on, which is something that I'm not gonna get into, but it's been a struggle. So, but yeah, where I'm just reading a lot of things that connect in with the learnings and experiences I've had in my personal life over the past couple of months and years, which is kind of, so I guess if I'm gonna try and break it down, because this video is already gonna be pretty long, it's kind of about, or like what I'm writing about has at its core the idea that colonialism is based on ideologies that continue to structure and shape our lives, our sense of subjectivity and selfhood, and how we relate to the world. Basically, the processes that I've been going through and learning about on like a more individual, personal level, if we project that onto larger systems, yeah, the idea of trauma and intergenerational trauma, kind of expanding that to a collective experience and not just an individual one, and even more so connecting to indigenous ways of knowing that this is an experience that shapes and is stored in not only human or animal bodies, but in the land, in the trees, in the wind, in everything. And the idea that the ideologies that allowed settler colonialism to thrive are written into how we understand ourselves in the world, and go back to this fragmentation of mind and body and human and nature, to this binary thinking that allowed humans to, I think Resmaa Menakem talks about that in his book My Grandmother's Hands, about how white supremacy or white body supremacy and violence being perpetrated by white bodies on non-white or non-Christian bodies and life can be traced back to white people or like European people inflicting that pain and that violence on each other. If we look at the long history of people enslaving each other or killing each other and oppressing each other, and this heritage of pain and violence and fear, and like somewhere along the way, we as a society, we as like my European ancestors went down the route of splitting off those parts and letting their wounded selves, their pain, their oppressive stories, their fears, their shadow selves and their shadow run society and structure society and our lives, cutting ourselves off from feeling. The prevalent model of cognition these days, how it is that humans know and experience, is a computational model that conceptualizes our minds as computers, essentially. And yeah, this model of cognition, this understanding of ourselves, dates back to like the time around or before settler colonialism emerged, because during that time was the time of the Enlightenment era, so like 1500s, 1600s, something around that time, where this idea took hold that the mind and the body are two mostly distinct and separate entities, and that our mind is our most elevated function, that it is our mind where our rational thinking is located, and it's kind of what makes us human or a more superior species or something like that. And that is connected to the scientific revolution and the start of humans interacting with the natural world in this very detached, disconnected, sterile, and exploitative way. Or I don't know, this is also kind of judgy because I understand that humans just want to understand. But yeah, so this idea of like everything can be understood, and I think that's part of not feeling your feelings, or not like having so much pain that you can't feel, is that you're just trying to understand everything. All of that that is a way of thinking about ourselves and the world that allowed settler colonialism to happen. Because if we could explain the violence that we were doing, if we can just we can just make up a science according to which we categorize some people, some humans, as less human, therefore it's not a bad thing that we kill them or enslave them or kidnap them and do human trafficking. I don't know if I managed to really connect all the dots, but also this is probably a topic for another video, talking more about how shadow work and trauma and healing and embodiment connect in with larger systems of oppression and our efforts towards liberation. And that's basically it's basically what I'm writing my thesis on in the context more specifically of social work. But yeah, oh my God, I made it. Like I actually managed to, hopefully, I will see in the editing process, managed to say what I wanted to say. Yeah, now I also have to pee, and I'm excited that it's still light out. So I think I'm just going to actually go for a walk or something now after I peed and had some food and also some water because I am so bad. I really need to up my water game. Go get some water. Okay. All of the people and sources that I mentioned throughout the video will be linked in my description, and I think for the future I will, even if I don't mention or quote anyone in particular, I will still try to just put some references in my videos or like in my video description to first of all make transparent kind of where my thoughts were coming and to just give credit where credit's due. And because they're cool, like because they're good reads, you know. I think that's it. I'm curious how the editing process is gonna go and whether my camera is even still filming, because who knows. Hopefully next time I'll already have more battery packs to switch between. But until then, I hope that you have a good rest of your day and that maybe some of this resonated with you, that you felt seen or heard or understood, or you learned something, because I'm sure learning a lot and I'm excited to share what I'm learning with other people because it's really helping me and I want to share that. All right, I think I'm done rambling and I'm gonna go now. Okay, I will see you next time. Goodbye. Super. No.